My name's Caleb. I'm 23 now, but this all happened just over a year ago on the day I graduated from college. I was the first in my family to finish a 4-year university program. You'd think that would be a big deal. You'd think a family might be proud. But let's just say, in my house, things like pride came with conditions, and I didn't meet them. I come from a very loud, very image-conscious family. My parents, especially my mom, care more about what things look like than what they actually are. My younger sister, Mia, has always been the golden child. She could sneeze into a microphone and they'd call it a TED Talk. She graduated high school 2 years before I did, and the celebration they threw for her still gets talked about in family group chats like it was a royal coronation. They rented a tent big enough for a wedding, set off backyard fireworks, even though our HOA sent them a warning, and had this massive catered buffet with little gold cards labeling everything like mini Capri skewers and imported prosciutto with fig jam. Mia even made a dramatic entrance in a white dress like she was accepting an Oscar. I'm not exaggerating. That's just how it was. And me? I'd always been the quiet one, the fixer, the one who noticed when the oil light came on in my mom's car, the one who cleaned up after parties I wasn't even invited to. I worked full-time while studying, took night classes, skipped out on trips and birthdays just to finish my final thesis. My graduation wasn't just a piece of paper. It was the first thing I'd ever done entirely for myself, which made what happened sting that much more. I'd given them 2 months' notice about the date. I sent a formal e-invite and even followed up with texts. My dad read it and responded with a thumbs-up emoji. My mom hearted the message. Mia never replied. Not that I expected her to. She was too busy posting filtered selfies from whatever beach her new boyfriend had dragged her to that week. Still, I held on to hope. Maybe they were planning something quiet, something thoughtful, something that said, "We see you, Caleb." The morning of my graduation, I woke up early and ironed my shirt twice. I took the time to style my hair properly, something I rarely bothered with. I stared at myself in the mirror, thinking, this is it. This is the day they finally get it. They didn't. When I got to the ceremony, I didn't see them. My name was called. I walked the stage, smiled into the crowd, and nothing. Not a single familiar face. I figured maybe they'd show up late. Maybe they were running behind. When I got home, I saw a sad little attempt at a party waiting for me in the backyard, if you could even call it that. A wrinkled congrats banner that looked like it had been rescued from a junk drawer. One large cold pizza in a greasy box. 2 2-liter bottles of off-brand soda. No music. No neighbors. No friends. Just my mom on her phone, my dad watching TV through the patio door, and Mia half asleep in a lawn chair. I stood there, stunned. My mom looked up and said with this forced smile, "See? We did something. Be grateful we even did that much." She gestured to the pizza like it was a gourmet spread. I didn't say anything. My uncle, who must have stopped by on his way to actually do something fun, muttered, "Not everything has to be about you, Caleb." That's when something inside me cracked, not with rage, but this hollow, sinking kind of disappointment. Like realizing the prize you've been chasing your whole life was just a cardboard cutout. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just turned around, went into the house, grabbed my diploma off the counter where they dumped it like junk mail, and walked upstairs to my room. I stared at that piece of paper for a long time. Not because I was proud, but because it confirmed something I'd been trying not to accept. They were never going to change. I opened my laptop and started looking at flights. Anywhere. Just not here. Somewhere far enough away that I wouldn't bump into any of them at a grocery store. Somewhere quiet. Peaceful. I found a one-way ticket to a city I'd never been to and clicked Book Now without hesitation. That night, I packed a single bag. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't leave a note. I left before sunrise. I landed in Seattle just after noon the next day. It wasn't exactly the kind of place you'd go for sunshine and celebration, but it felt clean, fresh. Like a blank page I could finally write on without anyone else's scribbles smudging the margins. I booked a cheap Airbnb for a week, just enough time to get my head on straight. My plan wasn't entirely figured out, but one thing was clear: I wasn't going back. That first night, as I sat by the window watching the rain streak down the glass, I felt something unfamiliar. Silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, but a peaceful one. No one calling me to fix a broken sink. No one asking for rides, money, or help. No passive-aggressive sighs. No guilt. Just me. It was terrifying and freeing. Back home, I'd always been the reliable one. The helper. The one they assumed would always be around because I never complained. And honestly, that's on me. I made it easy for them. I kept saying yes when I should have said no. I showed up when no one else did. And they took that as a given, like I was furniture. Like I was part of the house, not someone who needed space or appreciation. But this time, I wasn't going to quietly fade into the background. Over the next few weeks, I got to work. First, I changed my number. Then I locked down my email accounts, rerouted important mail, and pulled the plug on every shared service I was paying for. And there were a lot. See, while they were out throwing fireworks and calling each other family goals on social media, I'd been the one quietly footing the bills. My parents' phone plan? Under my name. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon? All me. That family Spotify account? Guess who set that up? I'd co-signed on Mia's student loans, helped pay for my dad's car insurance after he got into that fender bender, and even floated my mom a few grand for dental work that mysteriously turned into a spa weekend in Palm Springs. They never said thank you. Not once. And I never demanded it. Until now. I logged into every account and wiped them clean. Canceled payments. Changed passwords. Even the group family calendar I'd maintained, filled with birthdays, reminders, and appointments, I deleted it entirely. I didn't make a scene. I didn't send a dramatic goodbye. I just removed myself from every part of their lives that relied on me functioning in the background. It took 3 days for the messages to start. First came the confusion. Mia texted, "Hey, did the Wi-Fi go down at the house? I can't log into Netflix." Mom texted, "Did you change the phone plan? I can't make any calls." Dad texted, "Your uncle said the insurance company is trying to reach me. What's going on?" I ignored them all. Then came the panic. Mom texted, "Caleb, what is happening? Why are you doing this?" Mia texted, "You're being so dramatic right now. Just fix whatever you did. I have a date night." Dad texted, "This isn't funny, son. Grow up and take responsibility." Take responsibility. That one hit me. Hard. I've been taking responsibility for everything for years, quietly, thanklessly. But now that I was taking responsibility for myself, it was suddenly a crime? What really made my blood go cold was what came next. A group message. A new one, since I left the old one. Mom texted, "We need to talk. What you're doing is hurting the family." Mia texted, "You're making things harder for everyone. Just come back and we'll pretend this didn't happen." Uncle Jim texted, "Real mature, Caleb. So this is how you repay us for raising you." Repay them? As if I owed them for dragging me to my own graduation party like it was a chore. As if I was supposed to smile and thank them for a cold pizza and a sarcastic lecture on humility. As if their bare minimum effort was a gift I should be grateful for. I didn't respond. But I did something better. I posted a single photo. It was of my diploma, next to a packed suitcase and a plain ticket stub. No caption. Just silence. They lost it. Mom texted, "Where are you?" Mia texted, "Did you seriously leave?" Dad texted, "This is your family, Caleb. Don't throw it away over a misunderstanding." But it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a culmination. The worst part? Not a single one of them actually apologized. Not for missing my ceremony. Not for the excuse of a party. Not for the years of treating me like a human wallet with no emotions. It's almost funny. When I was around, they never noticed me. But now that I was gone, they couldn't stop looking. And yet, I wasn't done. Because there was one final thing left to pull, one last thread in the fabric they'd wrapped themselves in. Something they'd never see coming, but that would finally make them understand what it means to be taken for granted. A week passed. Then two. I'd expected the messages to dry up, for the panic to wear off and the silence to settle. But it didn't. If anything, it escalated. Mia posted a cryptic story on Instagram. Just a photo of an empty dining table with the caption, "Family doesn't disappear unless they were never family to begin with." My mom started calling from block numbers. I never picked up. My dad emailed me through his work account, something he hadn't done since I was in high school. "I know you're upset, but punishing the entire family like this isn't right. We can talk. Just come home." It was weird seeing the word home in a sentence like that, because in all the years I lived under that roof, it never really felt like home to me. It felt like a contract. One I was expected to renew again and again, quietly, without complaint. But I hadn't come this far just to ghost them and be done. I didn't want revenge for revenge's sake. I wanted clarity. I wanted a reckoning. I wanted them to see the damage, not just feel the inconvenience. So I set the final phase in motion. Back before I left, I had been listed as an authorized user on just about everything. insurance policies, utility bills, loan applications. Because I had the best credit score in the family, they used me as the safety net, the cosigner, the invisible backbone. What they didn't realize was that I still had access, legal access, and receipts. I dug through old emails and pulled up documents, car leases, tuition payments, a business loan Uncle Jim had taken out for the new landscaping company that mysteriously never opened. Guess whose name was listed as the backup guarantor? Mine. I gathered every one of those files, screenshots, payment records. I created a folder. Then I did what no one in my family had ever done. I told the truth. I wrote a letter. Not some angry, all-caps rant. A calm, detailed, surgical breakdown of every favor, every dollar, every signed form they'd conveniently forgotten. I printed it out, along with the documents, and mailed it. Yes, physically mailed it, to their house. Certified delivery. I didn't include a return address. I didn't even include a signature. Just a post-it on top that read, "You asked why I left. Here's why." The reaction was nuclear. 2 days later, my cousin texted me, "Dude, what did you send them?" Another message followed. "Mia just called me sobbing. Your mom won't come out of her room." I didn't reply, but I wasn't done. You see, all those things I'd signed onto. I could legally remove myself now. The loans had either matured or had new cosigners. The car insurance? I notified the provider I no longer consented to being on the plan. The utility bills? Changed, disconnected, reallocated. One by one, I untangled myself. But I knew my mom wouldn't feel it until it touched something that bruised her pride. So I called the private school board where she'd been bragging about her children's accomplishments for years, Mia's alma mater. And I submitted a formal request to have my name removed from all alumni materials, yearbooks, and donation records. She used to boast that her son was featured in their alumni spotlight. Not anymore. The silence that followed was different this time. Not panicked, not angry, just gone. They stopped texting, stopped calling. No more social media jabs. No new guilt trips disguised as jokes. Just radio silence. And strangely, that's when it hit me. Not just the freedom, but the grief. Because for so long, I'd been begging for scraps of affection, twisting myself into something palatable just to be accepted. And now here I was, free, but also mourning something that never really existed. Still, I knew I'd made the right choice. I found a small apartment in the city, nothing fancy, but mine. Got a job at a local nonprofit doing outreach programs, something that made me feel connected, real. For the first time in my life, I woke up not wondering who needed me, but what I wanted to do. Then, a few months later, something strange happened. A handwritten letter arrived. No return address, no name on the envelope. Just my first name, written in tight cursive. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It wasn't long. "We didn't realize how much we took from you. Maybe we still don't. But we feel the loss. If you ever want to talk, we'll be here." Mom, I stared at it for a long time. Not because it fixed anything, but because, for once, it didn't demand something from me. It didn't tell me how to feel. It was quiet. I folded the letter and tucked it in the back of my desk drawer. And I haven't responded. Not yet. Because this story wasn't about their apology. It was about my choice. Summer faded into fall, and with it, the old version of me shed like skin I hadn't realized I'd been wearing for years. I didn't rush to replace it. I let the quiet settle. I worked long days, cooked for myself, even joined a weekend chess group, nothing impressive. Just a few people who met at the library with thermoses of coffee and stories they weren't afraid to tell. And for the first time, I started telling mine. Not all of it. Not the part about the cold pizza or the diploma that felt more like a receipt than a celebration. But enough. Enough to let it out in pieces, like slowly opening a window in a dusty room. I never expected the healing to come in small things. Like the way the barista at the corner cafe remembered my name and asked how my week was going. Or the first time I came home after work and realized the apartment didn't feel temporary anymore. I even caught myself humming while making dinner one night, a dumb, nostalgic tune my mom used to hum when we baked cookies in December. I stopped mid-note and just stood there, holding the wooden spoon like a relic. The moment hit me hard, not because I missed her, but because I didn't hate her. Not really. I just finally understood the difference between loving someone and letting them break you. But something started gnawing at me, quietly. It crept in during the still hours, when the city dimmed and I was left alone with my thoughts. I hadn't blocked them. I could have, but I didn't. The truth is, a part of me wanted them to see what life looked like without me. Not out of cruelty, out of hope. Hope that they'd reflect, that maybe someone in that house would say, we should have done better by him. And one day, I got that. Sort of. It came from Mia, of all people. She sent me a DM. Not a selfie. Not a voice note. Just text. I know I was awful to you. I really didn't see it until you were gone. Mom's been different. Quieter. Dad doesn't say much anymore. The house feels empty. I guess it always was. We just didn't notice because you kept filling the gaps. I miss you. Not what you did. Not the stuff. You. I stared at the message for a while, not knowing what to feel. Part of me rolled my eyes. Another part softened. Because even if it was late, even if it didn't fix anything, she named it. That meant something. I didn't reply right away. I let it sit. Just like I let the letter from my mom sit in that drawer. Because what no one tells you about walking away is this. The distance hurts. Even when it's healthy. Even when you're right. Healing doesn't erase the ache. It just teaches you how to hold it without bleeding. Weeks passed. Then one night, I found myself standing on my apartment balcony, watching the lights of the city blink on one by one. I held my phone in my hand. Not out of impulse, but consideration. I typed out a message. Not a long one. Just this. I didn't leave to punish anyone. I left to save myself. I'm still figuring things out. But thank you for finally seeing me. I didn't send it. But I didn't delete it, either. Because something was coming. A moment I hadn't planned for. A choice I'd have to make, not about going back, but about what kind of person I wanted to be now. And it all started with an email I got the next morning. It was from the university. Subject, invitation to speak at winter commencement. I stared at the subject line like it was a mistake. Invitation to speak at winter commencement. At first, I thought it was a mass email, one of those blanket messages sent to every graduate to boost attendance. But when I clicked it open, I saw my name, Caleb Morris, right there in the greeting. They knew who I was. It was from Professor Dean, my old thesis advisor. He wrote that he'd been following my work since graduation. Apparently, the nonprofit I'd joined had been mentioned in an alumni newsletter, and he'd put two and two together. He said my journey, from student to graduate to someone who chose to walk a different path, was the kind of story students needed to hear. He ended the email with, if you have the courage to share your truth, I know they'll listen. I read it 3 times. Then a fourth. I don't know what part of it struck me the hardest, that someone had seen me after all this time, or that I was finally being asked to tell my version of the story. For a while, I sat there, frozen, not out of fear, out of disbelief, because somewhere inside me, buried under years of silence and compromise, was a kid who had always wanted someone to say, you matter. Your story matters. I said yes. The weeks leading up to the speech were strange. A mix of excitement and anxiety. I wrote my draft late at night, usually after work, reading it aloud to the blank walls of my apartment like they were an audience. I didn't want it to be bitter. I didn't want to bash my family. But I didn't want to be honest. I practiced it until I could say the hardest lines without my voice shaking. The day of the ceremony, I wore the same shirt I'd worn to my own graduation. The one I'd ironed twice, hoping someone in the crowd would be proud of me. This time, I didn't care if anyone in the audience knew my name. I was doing it for me. The auditorium was packed. Rows of fresh-faced graduates, their families clutching balloons and flowers, siblings squirming in uncomfortable pews. I stepped up to the podium, took a deep breath, and began. I spoke about my time at the university, the long nights, the double shifts, the quiet moments of doubt. I spoke about what it felt like to walk the stage and look into a crowd that wasn't there for me. And I spoke about what came after. The silence, the grief, and the decision to leave. Not because I hated my family, but because I loved myself enough to stop accepting scraps. And then I said this. Sometimes, the people who raised you will claim your victories while ignoring your wounds. They'll call it love while handing you silence. And when you finally stop showing up, they'll call you the problem. But leaving isn't weakness. Choosing peace over performance is not abandonment, it's survival. I left because I had to. And it was the hardest, most important thing I've ever done. The room was still. Then someone started clapping. A single pair of hands. Then more. And then it rose, wave after wave, until the entire auditorium was on its feet. I walked off the stage not feeling triumphant, but real. Seen. What I didn't expect was what came next. As I stepped into the hallway backstage, I saw a woman waiting near the exit. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her hair was different, shorter, less styled. She wasn't wearing the usual heavy makeup or bright colors. Just a gray coat and a quiet, nervous expression. My mom. She didn't speak right away. Neither did I. We just stood there in the kind of silence that weighs more than words. Finally, she said, "You look taller up there." I gave a small, dry smile. "That's probably just the stage." She nodded. Then, more quietly, "You were right." I blinked. "About what?" She looked down at her hands. "About all of it. About how we treated you. About what we expected without giving anything back." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know how much you were carrying. I didn't want to know. It was easier not to." I didn't say anything. I just let her talk. "I watched your speech online. Mia sent me the link. I almost didn't come today. I thought maybe you'd hate me if I showed up. But I thought, maybe you'd hate it more if I didn't." I nodded slowly. "You were right." We stood in silence again. This time, it felt different. Not uncomfortable. Just full. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. For the pizza. For the banner. For all the years before that. I thought love meant showing up when it was convenient. But you showed me what it really looks like." I could feel a lump rising in my throat. I swallowed it back. "I'm not ready to come home," I said. She nodded. "I know. But I'm okay." A pause. Then, "I can see that now." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. It wasn't a Hallmark moment. But it was real. And that was enough. She left without asking me to follow. And I walked outside into the cold winter air, not feeling broken, but whole. That night, I went back to my apartment. I took out the letter she'd sent me months ago, the one I'd hidden in the drawer, and reread it. Then I took out my phone, found her number, and saved it back into my contacts. I didn't call her. Not yet. But this time, I didn't delete it either. Months passed. Mia reached out again. We started texting more often. Just little things. Music, books, photos of weird meals she tried to make. There was no grand apology from her, but there didn't need to be. The effort was there. That was new. One day, I mailed her a copy of my speech with a note scribbled at the bottom. "For what it's worth, I'm proud of the person you're trying to be." She sent back a voice memo. Just one word. "Thanks." And then, exactly 1 year after the day I walked out of that backyard with my diploma in hand, I booked another flight. One way. This time, not to disappear, but to visit. Not because I owed anyone, but because I chose to. And that made all the difference.